everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the books I read between July 20th and July 26th. First up, I read The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, and I gave this book 4 stars. This book is set in World War II, and we follow 10-year-old Ada who has a club foot. Her mother is really embarrassed by this, so she never lets her leave the house. But as the war approaches, her mother plans to send her brother Jamie away and out of London for his own safety. Due to her embarrassment, she has no intention of letting Ada go. However, Ada sneaks out and accompanies Jamie on his journey. Upon arrival, they are put into the care of Susan Smith, who had no intention of taking care of kids fleeing the war. While there, Ada must struggle to trust Susan after everything her mother has told her about herself and the way that's made her feel. So I really enjoyed this book. I liked getting to see Ada's journey of self-discovery as she realized that a lot of the things her mother told her about herself weren't true. It was also interesting to see Ada and Jamie, who are so used to the way their mother is, and how this has kind of made them not trust adults in some ways, deal with Susan and the way Susan reacts to things and their expectations of how Susan is going to react. I also really liked getting to see Susan process the fact that she's now in charge of these 2 kids when that was never the plan. She had no intention of taking in 2 children. And I love seeing their relationship develop and how each of the characters grows throughout the book. I really enjoyed this book and am looking forward to picking up the sequel. Next up, I read The Stormkeeper's Island by Catherine Doyle, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. In this book, we follow Finn, who is going to be spending the summer with his grandfather on Aramore Island, which has developed a bit of a mysterious reputation for Finn due to his mother's stories. Once there, he immediately notices there's something off about the island. It almost feels like it's watching and reacting to him. Finn will soon learn that there's more to the island than appears at first glance. His grandfather is the current stormkeeper and is tasked with keeping the island safe. But it's almost time for his grandfather to step down, and so the island is searching for a new person to take over the duty of stormkeeper and become the island's new protector and be allowed to wield the island's power and magic to keep the island and its inhabitants safe. As this is going on, an old enemy is starting to reawaken, and Finn will have to figure out how to protect those he loves. I really like the family dynamics in this. I liked getting to see Finn and his sister's relationship. They're pretty close in age, and they bicker exactly like you would expect an older sister and little brother to. But I like at the same time, you can see that they do care for one another, and they both really care for their grandfather. I like getting to see Finn learn about the island and kind of discover the truth of what's going on there. I thought the magic was really interesting, and I like the way this set up the rest of the series, and I'm very curious to see where things go next, because there's obviously much more to this story than what happens in this book. So I will definitely be picking up the sequel to this book at some point and continuing on with Finn's adventures. Next up, I read The Beekeepers Apprentice by Laurie R. King, and I gave this book 3 stars. So this book is a Sherlock Holmes retelling. The start of this book is set up like the author has received these letters from Mary Russell, who is our main character and is basically publishing them on Mary's behalf. This tells the story of how Mary kind of became an apprentice to Sherlock and eventually his kind of partner. So Sherlock is older in these books, and he's already well known and has kind of almost settled into a much calmer life when he meets Mary and develops an instant connection with her because he sees a lot of himself in Mary. This leads to them getting drawn into a mystery that ends up putting their partnership to the test. So the reason this is getting 3 stars is because the beginning of this book is pretty slow. There is a lot of setup and a lot of Mary explaining how this partnership came to be before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of this book, which is the mystery that Sherlock and Mary end up having to solve. There were several times I considered DNFing this, but I pushed through, and I'm glad I did, because once we got into the mystery part, I really enjoyed this book. I do plan on picking up the second book to see if I enjoy that more now that the kind of setup for Mary and Sherlock's relationship is out of the way. As, like I said, I enjoyed it once we got to the mystery part. But if that book kind of retreads ground, I don't know that I'd want to continue on with the series because, like I said, this was such a slow start that I was like, just, can we get to the mystery now? So I will probably give the second book a try at some point and see if it's something I want to continue on with, or if this Sherlock retelling just isn't for me. Next up, I read Boardwalk Summer by Meredith Yeager, and I gave this book 4 stars. So this is one of my summer cover predictions. If you haven't seen that video, I will link my 5 on Friday, where I picked 5 books off of my TBR whose covers reminded me of summer. I'm not going to get into too much detail about this book here because I want to save that for my wrap-up video. But this is a historical fiction that is dual timeline. One timeline takes place in 1940 and the other in 2007. I did really end up liking this book and liking kind of how each of the storylines flowed and how they influenced one another, because usually in a dual timeline, there is some sort of connection between the two timelines, and I liked how that played out. I would definitely read more by Meredith Yeager, as like I said, I really enjoyed this book. But I will get more in depth about my thoughts when I do my summer covers wrap up, because I don't want to give anything away about whether I was right or wrong about it being summer related. And lastly, I read Ace of Spades by Faride Abike Amide, and I gave this book 5 stars. So this book follows Chiamanka and Devin, and they are both very, very different. They attend the same school. Chiamanka is bright and popular and has been an overachiever for her entire high school career. Devin is bright as well, but he is far more interested in his music, and his dream is to go to Juilliard. At the beginning of the senior year, Chiamanka is chosen as head girl, and Devin is chosen as a senior prefect, which he was not expecting at all. Chiamanka, however, was totally expecting to be head girl. It seems the year is off to a great start for both of them, until a mysterious texter calling themselves Aces starts sending out blasts that expose some of Devin and Chiamanka's biggest secrets. As these blasts keep coming, they must race to figure out who Aces is before their lives are destroyed, or worse. So I absolutely loved this book. One of the few things I knew about it before going into it was that it had been compared to Gossip Girl, and I definitely got those vibes with Ace's texts. And when I was reading Ace's texts, I couldn't help but hear them in Kristen Bell's Gossip Girl voice. All that was missing was the XOXO Gossip Girl. If they had said XOXO Aces, it would have been totally perfect. Either way, I really, really enjoyed this book. I loved seeing Chiamanka and Devin try to figure out what was going on, and seeing them struggle with the school's perception of them and even their perception of each other and how that changed throughout the book. I was really drawn into the mystery, and I definitely did not guess who Aces was. This was a fantastic read, and I am so incredibly glad that I picked it up. So these are some of the books that I have read recently. Have you read any of these books? If so, feel free to talk to me about them in the comment section below. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me weather emojis. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!